Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and welcome to This Week in WoW for the week of July 16th. First off, a special shout out to Rep Pally Rocks over on the Patreon. A huge thank you to you for the support. Now we will go ahead and jump into the Mythic Plus affixes for the week. This week we have Tyrannical, Incorporeal, and Spiteful. Again, that's Tyrannical, Incorporeal, and Spiteful. See you later, Incorporeal. I'm not going to miss you whatsoever. Spiteful as well, but with Tyrannical, can't imagine too many people are going to be thrilled to do keys this week with Incorporeal Tyrannical going on, but yeah, it is what it is. I still have not quite maxed out all my gear here on retail. As if you watch the channel, you know I've been playing just a ton of the beta, and I am getting there though. Basically, at least to the max where I'm going to get it. I shouldn't say I'm getting there yet. I still have two crafted pieces with embellishments on that I need to upgrade, which is going to be 120 crests for both of them, I believe. So I'm not quite that close. Every other piece of gear is close, but not those two. So that might be a little bit, but we'll say goodbye to Incorporeal, and yeah, we're not going to worry about that anymore going forward. Let's hop in. Let's talk about what's going on in the game this week. This week, our PvP brawl is Classic Ashran. Definitely not one of my favorites. Very melee unfriendly. And of course, we do have some time walking going on as well. Warlords of Draenor time walking. There's that little auction house thing on Monday. Not too worried about that. This past week, it was announced that the pre-patch will officially be on the 23rd. That's where we've kind of been expecting it here on this channel. There's some debate with among other creators. Is it the 23rd? Is it the 30th? I was always a 23rd believer, and that is what it ends up being there. So it's going to be the 23rd. It's going to be next week. Next week's This Week in WoW video will be pre-patch day. And so I imagine, people are pretty excited about this. I know in my guild, a lot of people are excited to try out the new talents. Well, we're not going to be able to do the new hero talents with the pre-patch. They should pop up on the screen here. You just won't be able to access them until you level. But your talent trees, any changes that have happened in your talent trees, I imagine will go active. Obviously, I guess I can't confirm that, but that's probably the case, that they would do the talent changes with the pre-patch. So that would be pretty cool. You'll have access to other things next week as well as far as like dragon riding on all of your flying mounts. So if you have a favorite mount that you haven't been using lately, you'll be able to dragon ride on that. And just a bunch of like little things like that you'll have access to that basically are going to be changing the whole game for the expansion. So even if you haven't bought the expansion, these things are just changing for the core game, right? And so you'll have access to those kind of things. Other than that, we haven't had a ton of news. I mean, that's big news when the pre-patch is coming out for sure. We haven't had a whole heck of a lot. We did have the second weekend of the TGP, which I mentioned last week, is something that I enjoy watching. So I watched that again. This one wasn't as compelling as the first one. I don't know how to make it more compelling. It's not really for this video to discuss that really, but I still watched it, still enjoyed it. So I spent a lot of my weekend time, watching that. I'll skip forward a little bit. Like I said last week, probably the best way to watch it, in my opinion, is the Warcraft YouTube channel. Just watch the VOD, and you can fast forward through any really boring parts, or any time when too many people are on a break or whatever. You can fast forward it and get the viewing experience in a little bit quicker time than actually watching the entire 5 hours or whatever it is. So that's the way I prefer to watch it, at least. I'm trying to think if there's any other news that really came out. They've been really quite slow as far as news goes. There was a new Mythic Plus affix added as far as the Zalatas bargains. And so they're still playing with that stuff on the beta. There was more raid testing. Oh, this is a good one. The Mythic Silken Court. So the Mythic version of the second to last boss, I did the heroic version of it. I didn't test the Mythic version. You need to be in like a guild to be testing the Mythic stuff really on the beta. Like have a guild that you're testing with to actually accomplish anything really. And so I definitely wasn't in there, but I did watch some videos for it. And I definitely agree with the takeaways for it. So Mythic Silken Court looks incredibly devastatingly hard. It's very, very punishing. A lot of it is over tuning, which can be fixed just by tuning things down. But it definitely looks like it might be one of the harder fights that they've ever made. So hopefully that's not the case. I personally do not want another Tindril. A 400 pull boss, like we've talked about that a lot on this channel, that just kills guilds that are not like hyper competitive guilds, right? If you're just a regular guild with skilled players, that like kills your guild when you have a 400 pull boss. That's a lot of wipes. That's a lot of time. So I really sincerely hope that's not the case. The heroic version of the fight gives me hope because the heroic version's actually not that bad. The heroic version of the fight, I think, is extremely reasonable, actually. And so I think maybe by tuning some things down, maybe even changing the way the mythic mechanic works a little bit, that could be a better fight. Because I think the heroic version's pretty good. And then I think that the mythic version is like insanely hard. One, because of the high tuning, and then two, because the mythic mechanic itself is like incredibly hard. Like if that was the only mechanic on the fight, it would still be pretty hard. Even if there's literally nothing else going on. So while that's going on and everything else is going on, it's just a bit too much, which is been the problem with some of these later bosses lately. So I definitely am hoping and giving feedback that is not going to be a 400 pull boss. Let's cap it at like 200 if you're like a skilled guild or whatever. And I know some people did Tindril in like 300 or whatever, right? There's probably even 200, but like let's cap it for like a reasonable guild to do like 200 pull bosses or something like that. And I prefer it to even be lower than that. I think for the ending bosses, like 100 is plenty, right? It's plenty of delayed gratification of killing the boss, in my opinion. But yeah, that's just my opinion. Not everybody agrees with that, but I do think it's more casual players are probably going to agree with that, and it's really just the high-end community mostly that doesn't agree with that, and even some of them do, right? Even some of them agree with that. So it's a pretty small community that doesn't agree with that particular take. Trying to think if there was anything else that happened this week in World of Warcraft. I don't really think so. I think it's just been really light on news. I've been playing beta. I've had a little bit of an itch to like make to play my Season of Discovery a little bit, but instead of doing that, I'm like, I need to get aspect crests on retail because I do want to be strong going to leveling process. I guess that's another thing we could talk about real quick here before we wrap this one up is, sometimes it can help. Like if you're just coming back to WoW right now because you pre-ordered War Within or whatever, you're like, I'm going to play at the end of Dragonflight, get my character a little bit of gear. It is nice to have some nice gear going into an expansion, at least the pre-patch gear, which will be next week. Because it just makes the questing experience so much easier. They're kind of tuning the quests probably around that pre-patch gear level. So if you're going in with less than that, right? There might be a little bit of a difficulty in leveling as far as the mobs having too much health compared to your gear level or whatever. Whereas if you're going in after playing Season 4 and you're like in 520s, or let's say you're like a heroic player and you're in like 510s or the teens or something, right? You're going to go into that expansion and just smash through, have an easy time questing. Maybe you like to read the quests and stuff, so you can still do that. But there's not going to be any difficulty or barriers stopping you from doing so. So that'll be very, very nice, in my opinion. If you have the opportunity to get some gear before the actual expansion comes out, I definitely would say you should do that. If you don't already have gear, maybe you didn't play Season 4 at all because Season 4 was kind of lame and you haven't played since Season 3, maybe you should at least do a little bit of pre-patch stuff. It just makes leveling easier. That's all I can say. I've leveled both ways, where it's been a long time since I leveled without gear, but the difference is monumental. Like just being able to, there's a big elite rare spawn, I can just go kill it instead of it killing me in 2 or 3 shots. It's a big difference, right? And so I do recommend that for sure. If you have the opportunity to. If you don't, I'm sure you'll make do, but it's definitely easier if you have the opportunity to have a little bit of gear there. So for this particular week, obviously we have the pre-patch coming up next week, but I'll be continuing to look for Ret Paladin stuff, Ret Paladin things, taking all suggestions and comments and stuff like that. Just did a Crusade versus Might thing that people have been talking about and was really quite pertinent, actually. A very valuable thing to look at, honestly. And so yeah, I'll be checking all that kind of stuff out, just waiting for more news, and might have a video coming out before this one. They actually put out a little bit of a roadmap. I'm not discussing it in this video because I think I'm going to put it out before this video comes out. A bit of a roadmap of how the pre-patch and stuff's going to work. So I might do like a quick 5-minute video on that. So that'll be it for this one. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. If you're already a subscriber, I ask you to check out the Patreon. And other than that, everybody have a good one.